So what is the law of sines? So what the law of sines tells us is that the ratio of sine of angle A, for example, over side A is equal to the ratio of sine B over side B and sine of angle C over side C. So this is the angle and this is the corresponding side measurement. So basically what the law of sines is telling us is that, let's say this is angle A and this is side A, the ratio of sine of angle A, right, over side A is equal to the ratio of sine of angle B over side B, and it's also, which is also equal to sine of angle C over side C. So we can use this kind of formula, or we can use these ratios, like the knowledge of the fact that these ratios are equal to each other, to find missing angles and also to find missing sides on triangles. So now let's use our knowledge of the law of sines to complete this triangle. So first of all, the first thing we notice is that we have angle B and side B. So we can start by writing sine of 70 degrees over side B, which is 15, is going to be equal to, so since we have angle C, let's start by trying to find side C. So we know that sine 70 over 15, right, sine B over B, is going to be equal to sine 45, right, because angle C is equal to 45 degrees, over side C. So let's start by cross multiplying, so because they're equal to each other. So C sine 70 is going to be equal to 15 sine 45. So then we can start plugging this into a calculator. So 15 times sine 45 is equal to 10 point, or I'll start using black now for this. So 15 times sine 45 is equal to 10.607. So I would say when you're doing this stuff, I mean, in this situation you don't really need to write this down and round it, because you can just divide both sides by sine 70 and plug it all into your calculator. But for the sake of just working out every step, I'm going to write it out. I'm going to write out each step and write out the numerical value. So 15 sine 45 is equal to 10.607. And then on the other side we still have C sine 70. So to isolate this C, because we're trying to find side C, we're going to divide the whole thing by sine 70. So 10.607 divided by sine 70 is equal to 11.287. And I think most teachers are going to want you, for the angles, they're going to want you to round to the 10th place. And for sides, they're going to want you to round to the 1000th. So now we have found side C is equal to 11.287. So the next step in completing this triangle is finding angle A as well as side A. So one thing we notice is we had two angles, and we know that a triangle, the three angles in a triangle have to always add up to 180 degrees. So we know 45 degrees plus 70 degrees plus angle A is going to be equal to 180. So 180 minus 45 minus 70 is equal to 65. So angle A equals 65 degrees. So now we can fill that in. It's one step closer to completing the triangle. And now with that information, we can now find side A using the law of sines. So we know that sine 65 over side A is going to be equal to, let's use the side angle B and side B just because this is an easier number than 11.287. So we know that sine 65 over side A is going to be equal to sine 70, right, over side B, or 15. So let's start by cross multiplying. So A times, let me do this in black. So we start by cross multiplying, and we find that A times sine 70, right, because we multiply these two, A times sine 70 is equal to 15 times sine 65. And now let's start by dividing both sides by sine 70. So we isolate A, because that's what we're trying to find. So A is equal to 15 times sine 65 over sine 70. So now we can plug that all into a calculator. We can write 15 times sine of 65, and then we can divide that by sine of 70 degrees, and that comes out to A equals 14.467. So A equals 14.467, and now we've completed this triangle. And one thing that I always like to do after I finish one of these problems is just look over the triangle briefly to make sure everything's logical, to make sure you're correct. So the smallest angle, which is 45, has the smallest side, so that is logical, that makes sense. And then this is 65 degrees, and this is 14.467, and this is 70 degrees, so 5 degrees greater, and it's 15. So this is a slightly greater angle than angle A, and it's also a slightly greater side, so that is logical. Okay, so here's a practice problem, and you're being asked to find side C. So go ahead and pause the video and try to find side C. Okay, so to find side C, we know that because of the law of sines, we know that sine of 82 degrees, right, because that's angle C, over C is going to be equal to either angle B over side B or angle A over side A. And the first thing that we notice is that the easiest thing to do in this situation would be to set 82, right, 82 degrees plus 36 degrees plus the missing angle, which is angle A, equal to 180 degrees. And then subtract 82 and 36 from 180, and that would give us angle A is equal to 62 degrees. So now that we know that angle A is equal to 62 degrees, we have our first complete ratio in the triangle, right? We have sine of 62 degrees, right, angle A, over 17, which is side A, is equal to sine 82 over side C. So now we can just do what we've been doing, cross multiply. So C, cross multiply like this, C sine 62 is equal to 17 sine 82. And now we divide both sides by sine of 62, and that gives us C, right? We isolated what we want to find, which is side C, is equal to 17 sine 82 degrees over sine of 62 degrees. And now we can plug this all into our calculator, and 17 times sine of 82 degrees divided by sine of 62 degrees is equal to 19.066. And remember, it's always probably your best bet to round to the nearest thousandth. So this is our final answer because that's what they're asking for. Side C is equal to 19.066. And we can do the same method of checking it again. So this time we only have one other ratio to compare it to, but that's okay. So 82 is 20 degrees greater than 62, and the corresponding side of 62 degrees is 17, and the corresponding side of 82 degrees is 19. So that's logical that this would be about 2 greater, or like that this would be greater than 17 because this angle is greater. So that's a logical answer. So okay, here's one more practice problem. In this one, they're asking for angle C. So go ahead and pause the video and try to find angle C using the law of cosines. Okay, so the first thing we notice is that we have a complete angle and side ratio. So we can go here and write sine of 50 degrees over 7 is equal to sine of angle C, right, over 5, because that's side C. So then we're going to cross multiply like we've been doing. So 5 sine 50 is equal to 7 sine angle C. So now we're going to do the same thing and we're going to divide, except this time we're not dividing by sine of something, we're dividing just by 7 because we want to isolate sine of angle C. So we're going to have 5 sine of 50 degrees over 7 is equal to sine of C. So now let's simplify the left side. So 5 times sine of 50 degrees divided by 7 is going to be equal to 0.547, and that is equal to sine C. So now, to find this angle, we're going to do inverse sine of 0.547, and inverse sine of 0.547 is equal to 33.161. But remember, for angles, we're going to just multiply to the nearest tenth, so 33.2. So we were looking for side or angle C. So our final answer would be angle C equals 33.2 degrees. And once again, we can check if that's a logical answer. 50 degrees is bigger than 33 degrees, but the corresponding side 7 is bigger than 5, so that makes sense. That's a logical answer, and we're good.